So it is Japan Suzuka, which plays host the 22nd round of the ISOWC. We're Vincent, Doyle Johnson in the booth, and Doyle, welcome back.
Ohio Will and all the race fans out there from Suzuka International Raceway. Glad to be back.
And you're seeing the 3 minutes left of qualifying at the moment. Daniel Lee is setting the pace of kind of 1:43.702. And Doyle, Suzuka is one very, very tough track. And fast straightaways, long sweeping technical corners, the S's. And you've really got to be on it every single second of the lap.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of drivers in practice and in qualifying. We're hearing a lot of communication going back and forth between the pits, and they're talking about that, how difficult the different kinks are, the little chicanes. I mean, this track has something for everybody, and it's taking little bits and pieces from all kinds of tracks all over the world. So extremely technical. And we're going to see a lot of good racing today, and everybody's going to have to be on their game in order to finish this race.
And especially the first sector, turn number 1 and 2. This is where the cars will come down streaming at 180 miles an hour into turn number 1 and 2. I mean, that corner has played host to some memorable moments over the years. It's very fast entering into 1, but especially in these Indy cars where they've not got the grip level as, for example, Formula 1 cars which have been racing here for years. You've got to almost break into turn 1, and then you can't take the same level of speed into 1 as you think you can, because otherwise the car's just going to lock up and going to spin out into turn 2. So you'll see drivers be very careful through that, because you just cannot carry the entry speed into 1 and then get on the brakes in time for turn 2. And that's going to be interesting as you see some drivers making moves later on in the race.
Yeah, and it can be deceiving, and I think, and that's another thing too, is as the race goes on, you really got to fight getting cocky on some of these corners, and especially the one that you just mentioned. You may think you can just push that a little extra, and if you do, you're going to find yourself mowing the lawn.
And in many ways, it's a story of most of the lap. The S's, very difficult, very challenging, and you've got to give a little bit in each one so you can get a faster section overall, because you can get one perfect, but then all of a sudden you're offline into the following section. The Denga curves as well, same thing. The spoon curve, another example, and then the casino triangle, which is going to be interesting, that you have to pay attention to later on in the lap. You see that the car's got now 1 minute 45 seconds. The checkered flag is out for the end of qualifying, and these cars who have completed a lap will have a chance to do one more if they've already passed start finish line before the lights came on. And looks as though it's just going to be Matthew Lambertson on track, who's currently entering the spoon curve, who will have about half a lap left to go. And Doyle, you love this racetrack, and I mean, exactly what part of it do you like the most? I mean, there's so much to choose from here.
Well, if I had to make my choice, I think the checkered flag is probably going to be the part I like the most, because it's not always that you're going to get to see that, especially in this track. So I really like the S's, the S portion of the track. I find that very challenging, and you can make up a lot of time right there by being able to navigate those correctly.
So Matthew Lambertson messed up the chicane, and his lap is done. In fact, no, it looks like he ran out of fuel.
I think he ran that for all it's worth, so looks like all the cars are in for qualifying.
So we're about a couple of seconds now before the grid will start forming up, and it is Daniel Lee setting the point. 1 minute 43.702. Carsten Borges alongside him in row number 1. Franz Joseph Strum in the 3rd position. Eric Davis driving for Slowpoke Racing in 4. David Stockrider racing for Jesus and Trends in the 5th position. Matthew Lambertson driving for Broken Arrow in the 6th spot. David Ward for Slowpoke Racing in the 7th position, with Paul Jenkins in 8th. Joe Barge in 9th. David Jinks in 10th. Dexter Castro in 11th. Julian Pham in 12th. Esteban Balau, Jonathan Goat and John Ellis didn't set a qualifying time, and once again, Doyle, is going to be Balau charging through the field.
Yeah, I think he's gotten so used to that during the course of the series. I think that's just part of his challenge. We're looking at some of the chatter going back and forth, and some of the people have intentionally chosen not to qualify because they wanted to start at the beginning of the race and let things unfold in front of them, and they're hoping to do, again, the survival race, as it were, let other people clear out of the way and roll on through.
Then it's a very short lap here at Suzuka. You see the cars, they're lining up actually around just before the entry to the 130R. So it's going to be very quick here. These cars won't have much time to warm their tyres up before the green flag. And very quickly, Doyle, one of the key things that will be an issue here is all the fuel calculations that people have been working on for the last, 13, 14 weeks. That's out of the window. And these drivers now use more fuel. Fuel consumption is completely changed. And that means that it's going to be a two-stop race by the look of it.
Yeah, that's something that hopefully all the drivers and all the pit crews taken into consideration, because they have they have the change in the vehicle there that caused the fuel consumption to go up. So you're absolutely right. Calculations from the past and other races gone out the window. So we're going to see what kind of strategies these drivers come up with now.
So we're just waiting for the pace car to start moving on around the latter part of this lap. There you see it, the 130R in the F1 cars it's become a bit of a ball fest now. It's flat out, but in these Indy cars you still got to really hit your marks. It's not always flat out. In qualifying perhaps it is, but no, with full fuel it might not be the case, and it'll be interesting to see the cars go through there. And then the final corner, the Casino Triangle, you do not see the apex of this corner until you hit it. So you have much coming blind faith, and then just as you get over that small little crest, you see the entry curve there. You don't want to hit these curves too much. You see the left-hand side, you can hit that one a little bit and then run out wide a little bit on exit. The pace car makes that turn down towards pit lane. Thank you very much for watching here on GlacierTV this afternoon, as Daniel Lee will bring the field up now, out the final corner, past the start finish line, and we're waiting a little bit here, and the green flag is... eventually, now it's in hand, and we're racing here at Suzuka. Coming down into turn number one, your car's going too wide into the entrance. All of a sudden, you see Franz Structure and the inside, and he just touched that Matthew Lamberton.
There they
Both
go.
Cars.
Carnage. Oh, they're back on the track.
Matthew Lamberton spinned again. And just as I was talking about how difficult turn one is there, Lamberton was on the outside of the corner. Strong was on the inside. And it just looked as though Lamberton got a wiggle. At the same time, I think Strong was trying to see if he can get a little bit wider into the apex of the corner. I don't think there's any fault to blame there, because both drivers were, having their own moments, and it just seemed to be they collected each other.
Yeah, and actually, I think they're very lucky that it was not worse than it was, because you had people going off the track and coming back onto the track. You see a bunch of cars going wider. They were off the track and on the track again, so great driving to avoid what could have been a 3 or 4 car catastrophe right there.
Dexter Castro run right there at the hairpin. I believe he is into the tyre barriers.
Into the tyre barrier.
You saw him go off at the Dengers as well, into Denger 1, as did Julian Pham. And both those cars, were able to get it back on track there, but it looks like Dexter Castro's day might be done. He's stuck in the tyre barriers, and that number 13 machine there, we'll have a look to see how much damage there is to that race car. The front end looks a little bit bent out. They might be able to sort out a little bit of that bodywork damage, but we really need to hope that suspension isn't too damaged. Here comes Daniel Lee into the final chicane for the final time. For the first time even, and that number 64 machine there will come past the start-finish line, putting the first of 48 laps in the books here at Suzuka, and the gap between himself and Eric Davis, who's moved up into the second position, is 2.5 seconds.
And we've got Ward moving up the field. He's been doing battle here. He's in this currently P7, but he's really mounting a charge against Paul Jenkins right now. And that seems to be a lot of action on the field. But it like you said earlier, everybody needed to be careful. In that first lap, you saw a lot of drivers in the grass going off the corners, just getting a little too anxious, trying not to lose position. It's a long race, so survival is key here.
Paul Jenkins in the number 19 machine under huge pressure from David Ward. And in fact, David Ward trying to go around the outside into the Dangers, which never worked at all. but David Ward, now he's got the inside line into the hairpin. He should
Yep,
get the
there he
cut
goes,
under.
there he goes.
Job done.
Yep, good job, good job. And Will, how's that going to be today? Because this track is notorious. There's just not a lot of huge passing zones, especially with the different types of corners we have here. Do you think we're going to see, how hard is it going to be for these guys to overtake, especially in a lot of the twisty bits?
Well, I think the opportunity down into the chicane, but you need to get a really good run through the 130 yard. If you're behind a car, that aero push means that it's very difficult to take it flat out and gain too much momentum. You've got a chance into turn number 1, but we've seen already how 2 wide works into there, as you have to brake to cars sliding into turn 2. The biggest passing thing for me is into the hairpin, as David Ward was able to do on Jenkins there, as he moved up into the 4th position. And I think number 69 car did it perfectly. Get a good run for the dangers and try and do the cut under into the hairpin.
Yeah, and as we were talking about that, Isvan Below, as we know in the past, Hard Charger is already listed as P5. Just overtook Paul Jenkins, just like David Ward. Now he's going to put the charge on David Ward.
And Paul Jenkins out wide into turn number 1, lost in position there to Franz Joseph Stumm. That is what putting Jenkins now all the way down into the 7th position. So Jenkins started well, got some good positions at the start in the melee, but now he's falling back as drivers of the raw pace are able to pick him off one at a time.
Yeah, he seems to be falling back just a little bit off the quick pace, but that's okay this early in the race. We have a lot of these quick drivers that there's going to be quite a few incidents today, I think, of drivers over-driving their cars. So, he just needs to run his race, just run his laps, and we'll see how it shakes out at the end.
And in many ways, the pit crews have got lazy. They changed the rules a couple of weeks ago, which kind of prevents these drivers now from getting what we call quick repairs. That's over and done with now. So if these cars get damaged, they're done. And this car, you can iron out a little bit of the bodywork damage, but the suspension, the way it's exposed, especially in the front wheels, you get into a tyre barrier or clip another car, your race is over.
Yeah, so they have to be very, very careful out here on the racetrack today. So, and you're seeing, and I think you're starting to see them settle down a little bit. People starting to get in the groove. I mean, you've got a pretty good gap. It looks like Danny Lee's pulled out almost 4 seconds on Eric Davis, and then you've got David Stockner that's actually closing there, Eric Davis. So I expect to see a battle there probably in the next 2 or 3 laps. But today, right now, it looks like David Ward and Isvan Below is actually the battle that's going on at the moment.
And I'd like to say welcome to David Stockrider, making his first opinions in the ISOWC. Stockrider, I mean, he is one of those drivers, a bit like Nico Brand, who is tremendous in both road and oval. And while Brand is more of a specialised road driver, Stockrider, learned to trade on the oval side, but he's still so competent on the road side. And if Leo Davis ahead would make a mistake, Stockrider is going to be ready to
No, absolutely. We've seen him in the Oval Series, and we've seen him out on the track before. So he's a very competent IndyCar driver. And speaking of Nico, kind of shout out to Nico, who's not here today. He's not on the track, which is unusual on these nice road courses because these are the kinds of tracks he loves to drive. So I'm not sure why Nico chose to not register for this race today, but we'll miss him out here on the track.
Yeah, I saw him to Nico a couple of weeks last week actually. He has had the worst luck possible this year in the ISOWC after, dominating last season. He's had the car to be right up there again this year, but he's just had so much bad luck. I mean, we can go back to Mid-Ohio with the lapped cars. We can go back to last week with the lapped cars. And it just seems to be he's had so much bad luck, and even though he's won himself, a couple of races, I think he's just wanted to take a little bit of time out, and we wish Nico all the best, and we hope to see him back here again soon.
No, absolutely. And looking at Matthew Lamerson out here, the number 12 car, currently listed in P9, and he just stopped on the track.
Yeah, and he stopped. He's in turn number, and this is at the spoon curve, probably one of the fastest corners of the racetrack. And I can't remember who it was. I think it was not Julian Pham. He managed to go down the inside. There's a car that had to go all the way around the outside. I think that was Dexter Castro, actually. And, yeah, indeed, it was Dexter Castro. He went wide himself. Now, Matthew Lambertson, we might have to throw a full course caution for that one. If there is...
No, we have to. But, we may have to hit the emergency services out there. Looks like he might be passed out in his car.
And for only the second time in the ISOWC, the full course caution flies. Matthew Lambertson's car is stuck on the racetrack. We're going to have to do our best to get that off. And we're going to have behind the pace car, and this is not something that is a regular occurrence here in the series.
It looks like he was able to tow back into the pits. So we can, and that's unfortunate. Matthew Lambertson has been disqualified, so we're going to try to get news as to what happened to Matthew in his car there. I hope he's okay.
In fact, I take that back. Hasn't been disqualified. I think they were just trying to get here his car towed. They gave him, you see, the black flag there, which was indicating to the marshals that they had to get that car off the racing track. It seemed as though the marshals here at Suzuka were very slow in responding to that.
Yeah, it looks like he was having some in-car difficulties. Looks like he was having some electrical issues in the car, so he just lost power and the car would no longer motivate there. So it looks like he's okay. Maybe he can get that repaired and get back out on the track.
Yeah, and I mean, see this a couple of times with these IndyCars, you know, that they do suddenly stall. And once these cars stall, you cannot get them re-engaged. You have to get a tow all the way back down to pit road.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting turn of events here, because what that's going to do now is the cars are going to bunch back up again. They were all spread out. Everybody kind of had their comfort zone. Daniel Lee had a pretty good lead over Eric Davis and David Stockrider. So, and now they're going to bunch back up again, and we're going to have, again, one more start, one more turn one, and we'll see what happens this time as we get back out on the track.
Although one of the saving graces is that it's going to be a single file restart. Now, we haven't had to, in fact, this is only the second time there's been a full course caution in the ISOWC's history. The first one actually occurred at Sebring last year, all the way back last September. So it's been almost a year since, in fact, it's possibly, I'll have to check this up, it could be a year to the day since our last full course caution. It was in September, it was in August. Cars will not be able to pass, I believe, to the right-hand side, otherwise they will get themselves a black flag. And, you know, drivers are going to have to react to the start, but at the same time, make sure you don't pass, because, you know, holding back might cost you a couple of seconds, but a trip down pit road here at Suzuka, that will easily cost you 25-30 seconds.
Yeah, well, hopefully everybody understands the rules on the single file restarts here, but that is going to be interesting to see if they bunch up again, or whether they just go ahead and let everybody roll through turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3, and then get back to racing, or whether or not they get a little aggressive on the starts like we've seen in the past, and we see a few more incidents. Everybody needs to remember that they're repairing these cars this time out on this track is going to be very, very difficult for those pit crews, so they're not going to get those fast repairs that they had at the beginning, so they really need to be mindful of what they're running over with their car.
And we have confirmation, it was exactly 364 days ago that we had the last full course caution in the ISOWC.
Okay, that's a little twilight zone there. And also some confirmation, we have confirmed it looks like Matthew Lambertson, looks like his car may be damaged beyond repair. He may be out of the race today.
So pit road is open. I'm not sure any cars, because I had to do a little bit of communicating with the drivers. Any cars decided to come down pit road?
I have not seen any cars that have decided to pit. I mean, we're only on lap 6, so there probably wasn't a whole lot of need for that. Of course, they may have forgotten once again, that the fuel's changed, so that 6 laps, that little extra splash of fuel might have helped later on, but nobody's decided to take that strategy today.
And we're going to bring Mr. Lambertson into the booth. He has made himself back down towards pit road. Matt, explain what happened to you there. I mean, it just looked as though there was a power failure to the battery on that car or something.
Oh, I meant my actual power in my house went out, and my PC is hooked to a battery backup, but my monitor wasn't, so my screen went out, so I couldn't see anything.
And how do you feel about being, I believe actually, you were involved in the last full course caution at Sebring. In fact, you won that race at Sebring a year ago. So first time around, the full course caution kind of helped you. Second time around, it was unfortunately caused because of you.
I feel embarrassed.
That's okay. The car malfunctioned, and that does happen. Looks like we do have somebody coming down pit lane right now.
Indeed, David Stockrider there. He's going to top off on fuel, and he's used about I'd say 4.5 laps of gas really. So topping up, that could be an advantage. Just simple fact that on his last stint, he'll be able to use those tyres a little bit more. Less fuel in the car with fresh tyres could play out to his advantage later on. And I mean, we don't expect to see another full course caution here today. Again, we've talked about how they are so rare. But Matt, this Suzuka racetrack is very, very difficult. And we saw there that you had a bit of a moment down in turn number 1 at the start of the race. The car just got loose.
Yeah, I was trying to stay side by side with friends, and under braking, I wasn't sure when to brake because I wasn't sure how early the people in front of me would brake, so I braked early, but then my procedure was messed up and I just lost it. And then I tried to stay off him, and I kept hitting him over and over again because our windows were locked.
And how much damage is there to that number 12 Boy Scouts for America machine?
I didn't feel any damage. It felt fine afterwards.
Yeah, it's like while we were talking to Matt there, several cars did decide to pit behind David Sockrider, Joe Branch, Dave Jinks, Julian Pham, all those. But Matt, tell us a little bit about what was going to be your pit strategy today. Tell us what you had. What was your plan?
I was going to keep putting full fuel in until I didn't have to anymore.
Awesome strategy, Matt.
Well, thanks for talking, Matt. We'll let you get back to your teammates, and shame to see you out early.
Thank you.
Well, that just goes to show you that you don't always have to have the most technical plan in order to be out there on the racetrack.
And a little bit of joking going on the racetrack at the moment, which I think is a little bit harsh, but this show was, it was a bit of fun. The lights are out on the pace car, so we're going to go back to green flag racing this time by, and we're going to have ourselves a couple of these 10-second interviews. Mr. David Ward, you started all the way down at 7th, you moved your way up into the 3rd position. Is restart going to help you at all?
I'm not too sure actually, because Isfan was closing on me towards the end, so it's going to get a little bit dicey, I think, going into turn 1, but hopefully he'll understand it's a long race and just sit there. But he's definitely got the faster car at the moment, but we'll see what happens after the round of pit stops.
Well, good luck for the rest of the race.
Thank you.
Miss Dexter Castro, you were involved in a moment down at the hairpin. How much damage is there to that race car right now? I don't believe actually that he can hear us, so we'll try and catch up with him at the end of this race. Disappointing, because that car seems to still be working. Mr. Joe Branch, you've had yourself an interesting day. You started down in the 9th position. You made yourself up 1 spot. Just how crazy was it feeding through that mess into turn number 2?
I didn't know what to do. There was nowhere to go. I just went to the outside and hoped no one hit me.
What are your thoughts, Joe, today about you decided to pit with David Sockrider? What are your thoughts? What's going to be your strategy today on that? Nobody else is listening.
Yeah, I want to defend myself. I got more than 2 positions, but I pitted and lost a couple positions. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting now. I don't even know how many how much fuel I need to the end at this point. I just filled it up, and I'm gonna take as long as it'll give me.
So you're just going to fill it up until you don't have to fill it up anymore.
Well, pretty much. I'm gonna keep an eye on my fuel number here in the next few laps, and that should help me out for the rest of the race.
10-4. Well, good luck the rest of the race, Joe. We're going to try and get very quickly Julian Pham into the booth as well. Julian, you pitted under that caution as well. What's going to be your plan for the rest of the race?
So I think I'm going to try one pit stop then, because I have a car accident. I missed six laps, and so this should be okay.
10-4. Good luck for the rest of the race. The pace car is about to come through the 130R very quickly. Mr. David Jinks is sat in ninth position. What's your thoughts for the rest of this race? Pace car is going to make things very interesting.
Well, so far it's been good. I think it's going to be interesting restart. The start of the race was pretty hairy back here.
10-4. Well, we'll let you get back because the pace car's coming through the casino triangle now. Good luck for this restart. Many of our 10-second famous interviews there. Daniel Lee is going to bring the field back to Green Flag Racing. Eric Davis in second, David Ward in third, Ismael Banner in fourth, Franz Joseph Stum in the fifth position. The pace car is in. Daniel Lee once again holding the field a little bit back there. He's going to go and try and get himself a nice run to the start-finish line, travelling at 40 miles an hour. He's going to start accelerating as soon as he gets underneath that Suzuka circuit bridge. In fact, he does so, and the green flag is back in the air.
Well, let's see, you've got a great start there. Looks like we've got some passing going on. Looks like David Ward's going to try to take Eric Davis right out of turn one, taking the outside line. He's going to get it done.
He might not. But David Ward's got the inside line coming to the S's, and this is what I think he was trying to do. Didn't quite manage to make it happen, but put Davis offline, and now he's going to try and work the outside line again. But David Ward was trying to attack on that restart, but while all this is happening, once again Daniel Lee is driving off into the sunset, and Eric Davis, I wouldn't say he's holding him up, but just by getting offline into the S's there, has cost both of those drivers about a full second.
Yeah, and I think Eric did a great job of holding his line and keeping David Ward at bay there. So he was definitely under attack. And then Istvan Blow tried to move underneath with Eric Davis to take advantage of David Ward getting offline. And fortunately for David Ward and for Eric Davis, we were right back where we started from. So no pass right now.
Paul Jenkins got very loose on the exit of Daniel number 2. That allowed David Sockrider and then Joe Brandt to get past him. So Jenkins moving back, and this is going to allow Dave Jinks to start closing up on him. David Ward will keep an eye on him there. The next big passing opportunity will be down into the casino triangle, and Ward there got a bad run out of the spoon curve, so now he's going to really have to push now as they come down this long back straightaway down into 130. They've just gone over, you see there, the track, this figure of 8 racetrack, unique in its place in the world. And it looks as though Ward wasn't able to close that into the triangle. We'll see whether he gets a good run through it, however, because Davis is looking a little bit slow there through the corner, and you see that Ward managed to gain right up as Davis getting a little bit loose on exit. Ward is trying to have to go around the outside yet again, and he's not going to try and go down the inside there. Push him down towards Ward. That'll be Mantle center edge.
To the inside. Oh. No, he's not going to be able to pull to the outside. Wasn't able to do it.
But Davis
kind of hanging out there waiting for a mistake.
But Davis got a little loose in turn number 1 again, so he turned 2 again, and I think that David Ward just needs to put the pressure on him, because it looks like that car hasn't got, it's got more downforce than that of Davis. It was a lot better in the twisty bit, but Davis can just put away a little bit on some of these straightaways. In fact, to come up the hill again, David Ward has got himself closing, is back down to less than half a second. But guys, look at this, 4 seconds in 1 lap Daniel Lee was able to put out there.
Well, yeah, and he doesn't have anybody to battle or anybody keeping him, driving in a particular way. So he gets to choose his line and, basically select your race as it will.
Battle there
trying to come around the outside, can't get it done. Yeah, I mean, Daniel Lee is just nothing there. He can just drive his race.
And now David Ward's got back to about a full second behind Eric Davis yet again. Daniel Lee out front is just charging into the sunset, and what this means is that Daniel Lee can pretty much choose his own strategy. He's still battle there. He was almost running to the back of David Ward coming through the spoon curve. a little bit further back through the field. It looks as though all of these drivers settled down single file for the most part, but this battle on the racetrack is for second, third, fourth, and fifth on the racetrack as Franz Josef Stum has been able to recapture his party.
Looks like they're still moving up. Yep, and we've added, like you say, you've added another driver to the mix, Franz Josef Stum. So he doesn't look to be as fast in some of the areas, but the constant battling has allowed him to catch up and, like you said, join the party. Welcome in. I'm going to check back in with Joe Branch and David Sockrider, see how we're doing up there. Looks like David Sockrider is closing as well. He's definitely moving up on Franz Josef Stum there, so I'm wondering if we're going to see yet another guy knocking at the door for that battle up front. So this is really, looks like that restart has really helped out a lot of racers, and we're going to keep this pack a lot closer than we saw at the original start.
And let's not forget, we talked about how Sockrider had some raw pace before the full course caution came out here at Suzuka Circuit. And David Ward now, it looks like he's just fallen back off David. Perhaps he overheated his tyres just a little bit. Needs to calm down for the moment, but Istvan Balau is charging in that fourth position. Let's not forget, David Ward there going a little bit wide there in the Suzuka. And that would have allowed...
see that acceleration.
Yeah. I've got a feeling that this is going to be a battle of epic proportions here between at least Balau and Ward. I think that if they start fighting for just a moment, they will be able to recatch up Eric Davis. But out front, it is Daniel Lee, 6.5 seconds ahead before this lap was completed. And as we come past start finish line again, we'll get an accurate timing measurement. But Daniel Lee just charging, really doing a sterling job in that number 60 corner team. And I tell you what, perhaps he's taken some tips from the GB Velodrome team at the Olympics.
Yeah, maybe so. Like I say, it's right now at this moment in time, it's his race to lose. Of course, we still have the pit strategy that comes into play because he did not pit while some of the others did. If you'll notice, you see other things going on, like David Sockrider is slowly closing up on our little party here for third, fourth, and fifth place. So he's going to be a contender here.
Sockrider is about 2 seconds behind Franz Josef Stum. His last lap was a 1 minute 46.535. Compare that to Franz Stum, who was about 2/10 of a second faster. But once you get to this Istvan Balau David Ward battle, they are about 2-3 tenths of a lap slower as they continue fighting with each other. And Eric Davis has now labelled himself to put out a little bit of a gap. It was 1.4 seconds last time by. And I think Davis has now got himself the opportunity to try and hunt down Daniel Lee. But when you consider the fact that Daniel Lee last time by a 1 minute 44.3 in comparison to Davis' 1 minute 45.9, no one can stop Lee unless he makes a mistake right now.
Yeah, it's going to be up to him to keep it on the track or make a mistake, and that's where other people are going to capitalize. I mean, we've seen that so many times in the past where, where people open up a great gap at the beginning of the race and it's something that's horribly wrong, and, second, third place drivers can capitalize on that.
And at what point do these drivers, start thinking about strategy? Now you can at least do 2 stops again. Perhaps some drivers might think about 3 stopping, short spinning the car, and trying to use the advantage of having fresher tyres more often. Is it something that you think could, work out for these drivers here today?
I think it's possible that can work out, but I'm really getting a sense from what we've heard earlier that these guys are really not looking at it that way. They're looking to get as least amount of pit stops as they can. So I think they're going to try to 1-stop, 2-stop this race, get out there on the track and try to put the laps down.
So as they come round once again through this very, very fast section of the racetrack, Eric Davis now coming into Denga number 1, flicking it to the right, using a little bit of that curve there before turning at number 2. Can use a lot more of that runoff area in Denga 2 than he can in the first part. And David Ward has caught back up to the rear of Eric Davis a little bit there, as Istvan Balau, I think, might have just heeded the advice I gave and decided that, it'll be better if we can both pass Davis and then fight it out afterwards.
Yeah, I think, given the way those two were driving, David Ward was not able to focus on catching Eric Davis because he had to spend a lot of time driving in his rearview mirror, keeping what is this van below doing behind me. So now now that his fans kind of backed off and given him some room, David Ward is now able to focus on that attack for P2. And that's also starting to spread the field out again. You'll see that Franz Stum and David Sockrider are now not quite as close as they were before because now they're focusing on what's ahead of them instead of what's behind them.
And one of the things that we were just noting is that Esteban really does power off the turns. That car, does like to almost Japanese drift style itself around the racetrack, and I think he's gained some inspiration from some of the famous drift drivers in Japan, but he's got to be careful that he doesn't use his tyres up too much, and I think that he will be one of those drivers that will try additional strategy options throughout this race to try and leapfrog at least David Ward and perhaps Eric Davis as well. To give you an update on Stockrider, he's fallen back now to about 4 seconds. Perhaps he's running a heavier tank of... In fact, he is going to be running a heavier tank of fuel. He's at least 5 laps more in the tank than everyone else. And there is a big difference between having, 17 gallons in your car and 22 gallons with the speed. Because it gets to the point that, to be fast at the end of the run, you've really got to make compromises early on. And I think Stockrider, I wouldn't say he's struggling right now, but I think that he might be working to a different strategy, just trying to preserve his tyres, knowing that he'll need something for later on to make up an advantage.
Yeah, I think that was the idea. He'll take the fuel now. He'll let the gap go early in the race, and hoping to gain an advantage later on in the race when everybody's pinning. Get in and out of his pit stall, make up some time, and get back out there on the track.
And Stockrider there, just coming out of the spin curve. He really isn't attacking these apexes like you see at the moment. And this is about so close to the wall just a moment ago. I think Stockrider really is in cruise control mode for the time being. Joe Branch is having a great battle with Jenkins at the moment. Branch is only about a second ahead, and he really is having to drive that car to his absolute abilities just to keep ahead of Jenkins for the moment. And Joe Branch, one of the drivers again, who is very competent on both. But I think today that Joe Branch is a little bit surprised by the level of competition ahead of him, because he's been trying to aim for podium spots every time he's been on the road courses here in the ISOWC.
Yeah, and Joe is a really competent driver. He's one of those guys that will sneak up on you because he's very, very consistent in how he drives. And I think today he had a few surprises going on early in the race. So I think what he's doing is trying to, from what I understand, he didn't have a whole lot of time to practice before the race today. So I think what he's doing is just kind of feeling the car out, making sure he can stay on the track and be there at the end of the race.
Paul Jenkins completely messed up his approach to turn number 2, got on the brakes and just slid across the entry curb, which has dropped him about a second and a half further back behind Joe Branch now. Dave Jinks, he's sat in the 9th position. He's 37 seconds behind the race lead, and Jinksy is one of those guys that just never gives up. When you consider drivers who races in the ISOWC, I think he's missed 2 races out of 40 out of 47 races, he's missed 2 of them now. So Dave Jinks, really is a good driver, and again, he is leading the overall championship, not through wins. He's not won a race here this season, but from the consistency of just turning up each week and recording top 5 and top 10s.
Yeah, and that's generally how you can win a championship that way. It isn't about the wins when you're going for the championship. And like you said, Dave Jinks is just one of those very consistent, always shows up, always putting in the work, works real hard. It's kind of the Rudy of the series. And, a lot of respect for him out here. And that's what's putting him at the top of the heap as far as the overall point standings.
And the same applies to Julien Mami, sat in the 10th position. I mean, Julien, once again, he admits that he's not the fastest guy on the racetrack, but just by turning up and being competitive, but, just making sure he gets the car to the end of the race, he's been able to pick up a number of positions, in recent weeks, which has moved him up into second in the standings. And as we talk about that, Daniel Lee is in and out of pit road and is now behind Joe Branch. So Daniel Lee was obviously on a strategy. He's been able to power that car for about 8-9 laps now. He's come out behind Joseph Branch And what that means now is Daniel Lee's going to have to try and make his way through traffic, but as a benefit to him, by not pitting, he can pick him off one by one, rather than having to try and take all of them at the start.
Well, I think what he's done is, between him and his crew chief, I think they factored out that as fast as he's been so far and how much time he was able to put on the field out in front, it would be better to do a series of, like you talked about earlier, of shorter pit stops, come up through. He's got the speed to come up through the pack, so it's really no skin off his nose to keep the car fueled up and fresh tires, and probably do a longer run towards the end of the race.
Yeah, he's putting himself some Firehawks on as well. That car, you just see it snapping a little bit into the spoon curve. He is going to want to use every single little bit of power he has now in that car. 650 brake horsepower. Looks as though he's taking a little bit of wing out as well to try and drive this middle portion of the race. And these tyres haven't yet warmed up. We don't have tyre blankets here in the ISOWC, but really it's powering through now. In fact, if he's lucky, he might catch Joe Branch out of the chicane there, pick a line there, Daniel, and all of a sudden you might find yourself back around Joe. And if you could go down to the inside, you see Joe's going to leave the inside line open for him, and he should just be able to slingshot him in the entry to turn number 1. I say should, and in fact now he does indeed get past.
Joe Branch kind of lets me there, knowing he's got the faster car, so a little respect there for Daniel Lee, and he's going to get through there clean.
So
well, let me ask you something. If you're Eric Davis, right, you find yourself, you're scoring in the lead, you got David Ward and Istvan Baloh just basically plastered all over your rear wing. You know, how are you going to feel about how you're driving right now?
A, I'd feel very impressed. B, I would make sure that I cover off their strategies. I think right now for Davis, he's probably going to get himself a top 5, but
Istvan Baloh just went out. He's had a spin.
Oh! I thought it was so close there for Daniel Lee, and we have to be careful. We don't have our second full course caution of the weekend, but it's on the entry into the hairpin. That was very, very close there with Daniel Lee, and we've got to be careful here, trying not to throw another full course caution. But Balow is going to have to be careful, get that car back onto the racetrack.
Stuck on the rumble strip. Oh, that car is heavily damaged. Yep, he's high centered. Oh. Careful. Oh my goodness. That car is toasty.
And from third position, Istvan Baloh there, we've seen this with Istvan, he is a great driver, but you know, he just pushes that car so hard that sometimes it just slides a little bit too much. And you saw it there, it was on the exit of Danger number 2, had some contact there with David Ward. And I just think, you know, that it's game over for him, and it was at a place where there was no runoff area at all. And David Ward started down into pit road. So we'll try and get confirmation on exactly what happened to David there, see how much damage he might have got to his race car. But David Ward comes down to pit road with 16 laps scored complete here. Having a look back at the replay, we'll try and get one on your screen momentarily. David there... I don't know, it's very close. David just got himself a little bit too high in those curves. The car wiggled a little bit, and Istvan Baloh tried to go down a gap that was about, you know, 1 car wide exactly. David Ward wiggling all over the place, didn't see him coming.
Yeah, and that was a battle for the whole time. So they were elbow to elbow the entire time for the last, 6-7 laps out there. So it looks like Istvan Baloh actually has some serious chassis and suspension damage. So this may be the end of the race for him.
Yeah, we'll try and get you an update on that one at some point soon. But the interesting thing is Eric Davis is still out front. Franz Josef Stum is sat in the second position with David Stockride back up into third. Joe Branch is sat in the 5th position. It shows Daniel Lee ahead even, but Daniel Lee is in 4th and Joe Branch is in the 5th position. But one of the important things here is that Eric Davis, as I was about to say before that melee happened, if I was him right now, I would try and lead as many laps as possible to counter off Daniel Lee's attack and see whether I can get, the 2 bonus points to leading the most laps, because especially in this back end of the season, every point is vital.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of hard to say because obviously Eric Davis is looking to keep track position as long as he possibly can, and so he's probably going to be one of the later pitters for this race. And then, like I say, Franz Joseph Stum and then David Sakurai is taking advantage. And I'd like to say, too, on how this works out when you have the consistent drivers. We talked about Joe Branch, who's just kind of running his race, filling out his race car, and lo and behold, due to other things that have nothing to do with Joe Branch, he's sitting in P5, Paul Jenkins P6, and then pitting David Ward's going to have to make his way back up through the field once again.
But a little bit of an advantage to David Ward here. He has got himself a 14-second gap to the nearest car. Daniel Lee got held up a little bit by trying to overtake Joe Branch. I mean, it was only costing a second or so. But both of these drivers are in clean air right now. So once they both settle down, it will be really interesting to see whether David Ward can catch anything up in clean air at all.
Well, and Daniel Lee has the same issue. I mean, he's got to try to catch David Stockrider, who's a good 10 seconds ahead of him. Of course, now he's in clean air, so we should be able to see those same kind of lap times that we saw when he was leading the race.
And I think that, 18 seconds. I was just having a look at the pits in laps. You pit in laps about 2-minute 1. You pit out laps about 2-minute 1. So you're losing yourself about 30 seconds here on a pit stop. So Daniel Lee should come out theoretically 10 seconds out in front of Eric Davis if he was to pit right now. So in fact that gap has been slashed by about 1.5 seconds. So Daniel Lee's really setting himself up here so that even if he's on a different strategy where he decides to pit 3 times, I think he's just about got enough in the tank to try and retake the lead overall.
Yeah, and it's been confirmed that Istvan Bilal his race car was too damaged. He's not going to be able to continue in the race. And in the meantime, over the pit radios, it looks like David Ward and Istvan Bilal are having a few words. So hopefully that doesn't get too far into David Ward's head and causes him to make some mistakes on the racetrack.
And David Ward's out of the race. David Ward's out of the race. He lost it in Denga number 1. And it looks as though he clipped the curb and the car just snapped to the left and it just touched the tyre barriers. I'm not sure whether he might be able to bring that down pit road, get that tow down towards pit road and see whether or not he can get some of that damage repaired to his race car. But the number 69 machine, which is of his day, is now severely compromising. And all of this, Eric Davis is just, he's put himself into the catbird seat to get at least second position.
Well, and that's that consistent driving that we talked about. I mean, we've seen Istvan Bilal many, many times. He loves to charge from the back. David Ward, very competent, very fast driver, very aggressive driver. I mean, he'll take advantage of anything he can get. And once again, what we're seeing is some of these more consistent, more steady drivers are making their way up to the front. Taking a look at that podium, maybe I can get a shot as Daniel Lee kind of makes his way up through there. We'll see at what point in time Eric Davis decides to pit and where he comes out.
And in all of this, David Stockrider, let's not forget, who did pit under that caution, is now 8 seconds behind Eric Davis. But again, he's got himself another 5 laps of fuel. That could come in useful later on in this race. We talked about how Julian Pham said he can do that race now on one more stop. It could pan out for David Stockrider because, if he can do one more stop as well, and we've seen him just cruising around for the time being, not really pushing as much as he did before the caution came out, perhaps he could snatch an advantage late on.
Well, I think right now he's thinking, he knows Daniel Lee's coming up. I mean, his spotters are telling him, hey, Lee's coming. But he also knows Eric Davis has to pit soon. And because he did not pit the first time, he's going to have to take a lot of fuel. So it's going to be a longer pit stop than a lot of the other drivers. So he's going to have plenty of time during this race. It's only lap 20. So he's expecting to be on that podium, and because Eric Davis is going to have to move out of the way going into the pits.
The easy money is on for Daniel Lee even for the race win. But what would you say for second position? I think it's going to be close between Stockrider and Davis.
I think David Sockrider in the number 11 machine, I think he's kind of the guy to watch out for. He seems to be running a more controlled race. He's not just blasting through the corners. He's conserving fuel, conserving tires when he needs to. He seems to be a very smart driver here. So my money is that he's going to continue to drive that way. Daniel Lee, we know, fastest car out here. He's, you know, the laps are going down. But is he going to make the same kind of mistakes that we saw from David Ward and Istvan Bilal? Is he gonna overdrive his car and open up the door, and David Sockrider is going to run right through it?
It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens between those two drivers. And Franz-Josef Stunt as well. He's doing himself a good job right now. I mean, he's back to the field, obviously, with some. I believe he pitted just a couple of laps back, but that DX driver really is, you know, the dark horse in my opinion. The driver who could really snatch a spot on this podium if other drivers around him either, you know, don't focus enough, or I mean, Sockrider could run out on the last lap, for example, if he tries the last lap, and I think Stun will be there ready to pounce.
Yeah, I think so too. He's another one of those drivers that's just running his race. He knows his pace. He knows, you know, the limits of his driving abilities and his car. So he's going to try not to push beyond those limits. And again, you know, lap 21 in the books. We've got a lot of race left, and so, you know. And again, you look at drivers like Joe Branch, currently sitting in P4 in the number 27 car. Consistent driving. He's been very patient, trying not to get anything. He knows the limits of his car.
And I'm going to have to interrupt. Eric Davis comes down into pit road from that number 65 machine. 37 miles an hour in pit road. One of the slowest pit entries we do all season long. It is so slow through here. But what that's going to mean is Sockrider, for the time being, is going to lead some laps here at Suzuka.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see what, and you know, that's the question. Is Eric Davis going to short pit? Is he going to throw in less? Yes, he is. He's going to throw in less fuel, take tires, and get back out on the racetrack. It's an interesting strategy, Will. How do you think that's going to play out for him? He did not take the full load of fuel.
It's one of those things that you see often in the road courses. I think now his pit crew's worked out with the caution how much fuel he needs to the end of the race. They decided that they cannot do it. They cannot do it on one more stop. We are approaching the half of the race, half race distance now. So they've decided what you're going to have to 2 stops. Let's put less fuel in the car now, put less fuel in the car later on. Give yourself a little bit of an extra advantage lap by lap. It could work. His times will be faster throughout the entirety of the stint, rather than being, you know, perhaps half a second faster for about 6-7 laps towards the end of the race. But the key thing here is Davis now has to push.
Yeah, he's got to push, and you can see he's getting a little loose with those fresh tires. Like you said, there's no tire warmer, so the car doesn't behave itself for the first lap or so. He's sitting behind Joe Branch now, so as far as track position, that was a very smart thing for him and his pit crew to do, and get him out there on that track and start fighting for position. So we're going to see how that plays out here. So he's run a really good race so far, so maybe he's going to be up there with David Sockrider and Joe Branch here shortly.
And I do have to say, having a look at his pit time compared to that of his in time compared to that of Mr. Lee, it was 2 seconds slower. Now, I think you can give about 7/10 of that to the lap, but I've got a feeling that Daniel Lee might also be on a 3-stop strategy here.
Yeah, I have a feeling from here on out we're going to see some, you know, probably another pit, just quick grab tires, just a splash of fuel, and get back out there. And like I say, I'm still thinking Daniel Lee's going to have a longer last stint than we even saw him, because he pitted on lap 15 to start with. He was one of the first ones to go in on a green flag pit stop.
David Ward, by the way, has managed to get himself back out onto the racetrack, but he has now scored 1 lap down. Currently sat in the 11th position with just Dexter Castro ahead of him, as we have 3 retirements from this race. Istvan Bilal, we saw the moment of him there in the tie barriers that almost brought out our second full course caution of the day. Jonathan Goke retired from the race. He's now currently scored 16 laps down, and Matthew Lambertson, we saw the issue of him, which brought out the first and the only full course caution. And David Sockrider almost lost it there, down into the hairpin complex, I believe. No, in fact, it was down in Denga number 2. I take that back. He just ran that curb a little bit too much in the exit of Denga number 1. That caused the car to get all sorts of squirrely into Denga number 2 onto the gravel track, and he missed that tyre barrier, Doyle, by about a tyre width, and that's it.
And yeah, and that's what you're seeing here. David Stockrider's been out there. He's almost on a full fuel run. His tires are getting a little greasy out there, and then he's got Daniel Lee in his mirror. I'm sure David Stockrider's got his spotter in his ear. Here he comes, and Daniel Lee is really putting on the pressure here. So we're going to see if Stockrider decides to just pit here real soon, because he's about the same amount of laps as they were during the caution. So we're going to see if he's going to battle it out, or he's just going to go ahead and fall into the pits.
David Stockrider then in the number 11 machine from the heartland of the homeland almost of IndyCar racing, from Indiana itself. And you see there how Daniel Lee's right behind. He had to be very careful not into the rear of him and through the S's there. But David Stockrider racing for Jesus and Friends, I believe the team name is called. They don't have a formal team name, but I mean, they've got themselves some good solid guys around them. The history with the Bettenhausens. There's a whole history lesson and a bit in itself. And then you've got, some very fast drivers in that team, drivers like Mitchell Cracker and that as well. So Stockrider's got himself a very good support group coming into this race. Looks as though right now, at least, he's able to try and hold off Daniel Lee, but Lee is just closed dramatically. And right now, Lee needs to get around Stockrider because the likes of Eric Davis and that, they can start closing.
Yeah, and interesting. David Stockrider basically, running in the 147s, and Daniel Lee averaged tons more like 144, 145. So I think Daniel Lee's just kind of going to sit down and go, hey, I don't want to waste my tires on this, because I think he knows David Stockrider has to pit here shortly. So there's no sense in jeopardizing both racers. Hey, let's just ride this out. He's going to pop out of the way, and I'll be up front in clean air and off into the sunset.
So coming past our finish line again, Daniel Lee, I'm not sure he's got the downforce package to match Stockrider. He's looking all the way down to the inside, trying to bluff into turn number 1. Stockrider having nothing of it as they come through turn number 2 once again. And Stockrider is holding his own. He's not cracking under the pressure. And this is almost, for Stockrider now, the same sort of pressure he sees in oval racing, where, you're used to having a car. David Ward there, wide in turn number 2.
Oh, rolling chicane.
And now, see, Lee could have had a look down to the inside there. His car got a little bit loose as they came out of the S's now, up the Dunlop curve. And I was saying just that Stockrider is very used to having a car that close behind him through his oval racing. And a little bit the oval experience transferring through here to the road courses.
Yeah, having something right on your rear wing is not a surprise for an oval racer. You have cars all around you all the time. Generally looking to the inside there, can't get it done. And while this battle is going up front here, if you'll notice that Joe Branch is now listed P3, so he's currently technically on a podium spot from all the way into the back there. He just slowly and methodically drove his car, drove his race, and look what you got. You got Joe Branch, Eric Davids, Cranstrom, and David Jakes in the 6th position, which is another one of the drivers we talked about, slow and steady, just slowly moving up to the front.
I'm sure that he will be a little bit annoyed if you call him slow, but
slow is a relative term.
Okay, but Daniel Lee is hounding the rear of David Stockrider in that number 11 Club Indiana machine, coming past start-finish line again. Daniel Lee's a lot closer this time by. Will he be able to suck up to the draft and try and make the move into turn 1? No, you see Stockrider is way a little bit of straightaways, and Daniel Lee really is using. He's definitely running a higher downforce setup. But Stockrider runs wide there, and this is going to allow Lee to try and go around the outside into the S's, side by side. Lee has to get out.
Oh, my goodness.
Stockrider held the inward line perfectly. Lee got himself a little bit loose, and what that meant, he's back behind that number 11 machine, and I don't think that Daniel Lee is having too much fun right now. He wants to get out and press ahead.
Yeah, he's Stockrider. It's almost like he had an extra notch there, really taking advantage of those rumble strips and moving that car around. It's actually quite impressive as long as he's been out there. And like I say, he's got older tires, but he's definitely not going to be intimidated by Daniel Lee at this moment.
And you see that Daniel Lee just weaving a little bit on the track, trying to force Stock Rider into making a move. We do have the one raw mover in force in the ISOWC. So what that means is that if a driver commits to the outside line going into a corner, he cannot then come down to the inside and chop as Daniel Lee gets very close on the run out of the spoon curve. This will allow him now to try and get a little bit of an advantage down the long back straightaway. But you see once again, David Stock Rider pulls out as they come down towards the 130R. And I think there's going to be a momentous braking effort required by Daniel Lee if he's going to try and take the race lead back.
Yeah, David Sauter's car looks a little loose at certain times, and he's definitely got the car set up for the straights. He's really pulling him on the straight part, so that probably comes in for that setup experience coming from the oval side.
And Daniel Lee, we're past the halfway distance, by the way. We're racing for 48 laps here today. We're currently working now lap number 27, so 26 is done, dusted, in the books. But Stock Rider is holding his own there. The gap between Stock Rider and Lee at the line last time by was 4 tenths of a second. You just see how much of an advantage Lee gets as he's going to try to look down the inside again. Not quite, as Stock Rider got wide, but Lee just wasn't quite close enough to capitalise. Stock Rider is struggling through the S's here, and that is going to be his one tyres, I think. Because I've just got the feeling, you know, that tyres have had so much usage now that he's not getting full advantage where he needs it, but he's still got the straight line speed. They've got some lap traffic ahead of him. I believe that is Dexter Castro, sorry, in the number 13 machine, who could come into play here. So the Stock Rider is going to run that inside line. We're probably going to get him on the exit of this corner. Down the right, Stock Rider into the car.
Oh, too much throttle. Oh my goodness. That
gives Daniel Lee the race lead and some, and about 4 seconds almost there. One mistake by Stock Rider. Daniel Lee back into the race lead and is now pull back out the advantage. And I think that lap traffic, as Stock Rider there, you saw he liked to run to the outside out of the hairpin. He was forced to go down to the inside to start negotiating that lap traffic, and no fault of the lap traffic at all there, but I think Stock Rider just wasn't used to you know, having to run that inside line out of the hairpin.
Well, you have that, and he's under total pressure, and his tires are wore, and he's coming through there, and you know, the car just was not into pit lane. His car just was not able to handle the torque coming off the engine.
Wait, that's Daniel Lee coming into pit road as well. So Daniel, we're going to have to do our maths here. And we will get back to you on this, but I'm not quite sure whether or not Daniel Lee can do this on one more stop. At the same time, in fact, we're going to have to chat to David Ward, but in fact, he is back now. David Ward, unfortunately, you're out of the race. So we saw you coming into the tyre barrier at Denga number 2, but more importantly, Daniel Lee coming into pit road on lap number 27. Do you think you can make it to the end?
Oh, probably. It's going to be tight for him. So we'll see.
And now we'll go back to, first of all, you had a moment of Istvan Balor coming out of Denga number 2. Looks though you just got that car a little bit loose on the rumble curbs, and that meant that as you tried to correct, I think Balor was looking down to the inside, and the gap just kind of disappeared as you're trying to resettle the car. And take us through it from your perspective.
Yeah, I just went a little bit wide. Everyone knows that curb, if you go on that curb with basically the middle of the car, it's really just unsettles it. The car jinxed across, and I was just turning back left, and then I knew Istvan was there, that's why I was pulling back over, but unfortunately just tagged the rear end and it put us both out of the race. I ended up having too much damage after that, and then it just skidded off into the wall, and the guys managed to repair it, but obviously the car was slow and the wing was still bent, all the aero was gone, so yeah, it just became a little bit really difficult to drive, and yeah, I didn't want to spoil anyone else's race, so parked it up under the bridge.
And that full course caution earlier on, it looks as though you were going to try and capitalise. You tried to go around the outside of Eric Davis down into turn number 1 and 2, but how important would it have been for you to try to get past him if you were to have any chance of catching Lee? I mean, would you have had the pace to do so had you have got past him there?
No, I would have been able to catch Lee. He definitely had the pace on everyone today. It was more a case of an opportunity was there and see if we could capitalise on it. Going around the outside was definitely a brave move, but we gave each other space and yeah, we managed to carry on racing. So yeah, it was good fun. I was enjoying it. Yeah, just unfortunate turn of events really.
Daniel is painted all over the back bumper of Eric Davis as your current leader.
Yeah, so Davis is back out into the race lead. Let's not forget, Davis will have to do one more pit stop here today if my calculations are correct. Daniel Lee in the second position though really is charging at the moment. And David Shockrider, he's dropped back now, it's about 10 seconds behind once again. In fact, he's got himself around Eric Davis there. I believe that was just in the hairpin that Lee was able to get past. In fact, it was. Beautiful move down to the inside. Davis has yielded in many ways, and Daniel Lee back ahead once again.
Yeah, I found that a little surprising. It did look like Eric Davis just yielded to Daniel Lee and said, hey, go ahead, I know you're faster, go do your thing so I can continue to run my race without all this pressure.
And David staying around for the rest of the race?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'll join you guys.
Eric Davis, it looks as though his tyres really are shot to pieces right now. I'm not quite sure what's pitted. In fact, he pitted on lap 20, but that car really does look as though he's used those tyres up dramatically already, and he's just not really been able to get back into the groove on this second set of Firestone Firehawk style.
No, I think we're seeing what we saw with David Stockrider. Yeah, he's used them up, and he's just trying to get around it and kind of wait until he can get in, get some more tires, and get in and repit. Because remember, he short pitted on his last pit stop, so we're expecting to see him go in for some fuel and some fresh tires here.
Yeah, he definitely will need to make one more stop. Daniel Lee in the first position, David Stockrider in fourth, might have to make one more pit stop. It's going to be very close, and I think David Stockrider has already gone into some form of fuel conservation mode. Now, Stockrider cannot fall behind Daniel Lee any more than about 27 seconds, I would say. In fact, probably less than that. About 24 seconds is the length of time it would take to come down pit road and probably put a bit of splash and go fuel in. So that is the target that Stockrider would have to aim for. If he gets behind there, he might as well just press on and try and, you know, do the race that way. Daniel Lee still charging ahead at the minute, but the number 64 machine is really pulling out a gap again. Now he's got around Eric Davis, and it's up to about 2 seconds almost in the space of as many laps.
Yeah, and that's what we expected. Daniel Lee definitely has the car of the day. I mean, his car is proven to be way faster than a lot of these cars by even 1 to 2 seconds in a lot of cases. So him getting out in front we're going to expect to see him continue to pull on Eric Davis and Franz Stum. One of the things I want to mention is we kind of had a look at David Stockrider, how he's got an interesting driving. His car is sliding a lot. It's like they've made some kind of adjustments during the pit stop that's loosened up his car considerably. So it'll be interesting to see how long those tires last with him doing a four-wheel drift around most of the corners here today. Actually, he's starting to lose it again. He's continually losing the back end of his car now after coming out of the pit. So there's been some adjustment to that car that is absolutely not working for him.
Could have just done a small adjustment on the rear or front wing and just making it oversteer a little bit.
And I think as well that these tyres, you know, you need to keep them in check, the S's. And I think a lot of these drivers, you know, they know that they have to push from the second they get out of pit road, and that is hurting them, especially in sector number 1. David, I don't think you really got to see the rear of Daniel Lee too much, but it looked as though that a couple of these drivers were running a lot lower downforce setups. From previous experience, you really can go down a kind of like medium downforce or high downforce route for this racetrack. And which one do you think is more beneficial?
It depends what you want from the car. If you want a super fast car, then you can go for the low downforce, but it's going to be a little bit unstable in traffic. We went for a medium downforce setup because we knew we'd be in traffic. So, and it looks like Daniel's on a low downforce because he's miles quicker down the straight than everyone else, and especially through the fast left kink.
Well, I have to agree with you on that one, because we saw when he was stuck behind Stockrider and Davis as well, he wasn't able to get past down the front straightaway or the back straightaway.
He's not left. He knows he's quicker than Stockrider, so he's not going to jeopardise his position. It's his race to lose, pretty much, so he's just turning over the laps.
And sector number 1. You've got that fast right-hander, turn 1, into that big braking zone for 2, and then the S's. You've really got to work the car on that section of the racetrack. But how difficult is turn number 1 at the moment? Because last time we were here, you really couldn't take too much speed into 1, and then with these brakes and the downforce levels, make it into turn 2.
Yeah, it's a quite difficult corner, even with some of the changes. But yeah, you're kind of trail braking as you go into the corner. There's no way you could take it flat and still be able to have a good setup for the rest of the track. It's definitely a corner for the Brave, and turn 2 is equally as hard, trying to get the speed down so you don't understeer off.
And Davis in that number 65 machine, I know he's a teammate of yours at Slowpoke Racing, and he's doing a sterling job in that second position at the moment. What word of advice would you give to him, knowing that he's still got to make one more pit stop here, but Daniel Lee ahead of him might have to do one himself?
I would just tell him to keep turning over the laps. Just his pace is good now, and he's on the podium regardless. So he just needs to keep calm, not bother trying to chase Daniel, which is probably why you let him by. So we'll see how it pans out for him. But I wish him the best of luck.
Well, something to talk about that a little bit is Eric Davis is actually last lap, and Franz Stum is actually gaining on Eric Davis right now. Almost a full second on that last lap on the lap time. So I'm wondering, David, do you think Eric Davis's tires are starting to give him a little trouble?
Oh yeah, definitely. You can see the car's pushing a little bit, but you have to remember, does Franz have to pit again?
I think it's going to be close. I think might have to pit one more time.
Okay, so you can see now Eric's getting caught up with some traffic here, so he's just got by at the hairpin. But yeah, he's a good 6 seconds ahead of him at the moment. So even with a pit stop in hand, he should be able to come back out and really push it hard. You have to also remember that the fuel loads are going to be lighter towards the end of this race, so he doesn't have to take full fuel on board. So that's also going to help Eric out.
So we're currently working on lap number 33 here at Suzuka Circuit. Daniel Lee is your race leader, Eric Davis in second, Franz Joseph Stum in third, with David Stockrider in fourth, and Joe Branch rounding out your top 5. 6 cars on the lead lap. Paul Jenkins is sat in the 6th position, holding on to that lead lap. He's in 1 minute 5 behind the race leader, but a solid drive by him. Dave Jenks has currently scored 1 lap down, as is John Ayles, Julian Pham, and Dexter Cassidy is 2 laps down. 4 retirements in this race, starting off with Matthew Lamberton, who was involved in many moments. The one at turn number 1, and then he had another secondary spin just a couple of corners after that, and obviously brought out the first full course caution, in fact the only full course caution of the day. Very rare on the ISOWC. It's only the second time it's happened in history. Jonathan Goke retired 2 laps later with engine trouble. Isman Balal, we saw what happened to him being stuck in the tyre barriers just before the hairpin, which almost brought out our second full course caution. And then the guy to my right now, David Ward, currently scored 9 laps down, is also out of the race after that collision earlier on with Isman Balal. David, it's a small field here today, but it's been very competitive racing, and it's not very often we get to see in the ISOWC drivers really battling for top 5 positions like that.
Franz Stum got pounded by lap car, by back marker, and sent off the track. We'll see if he's got any damage on that. It looks like he might even have some side pod damage. He got shoved right off the track.
It was even Dave Jinks in the number 76 machine, who was the other car involved. I want to go back and have a look at the replay of that, because it looks as though, I mean, it's single file through the dangers, and Dave Jinks had the inside line. He got off just to let him pass, and I think that David just didn't realise how much, I don't know, I think David just kind of overshot the corner and didn't give enough room there to Stum, and Stum is very angry there in that number 34 machine.
Yeah, that was. I don't think Stom thought he had enough room there to go inside of David and kind of like bank stuff and jinxed onto the grass. But yeah,
he's got serious damage to the chassis.
Yeah.
He can't hardly keep it on the track.
No,
So
his race is over.
Yeah, at the very least, he'll have to come down pit road. He'll have to get himself a lot of repairs to that right-hand side of his race car. And I mean, that is an uncharacteristic mistake there by Jinks. Not the sort of thing you'd see him happen on an often basis. You know, I think people forget so often that, you know, the two dangers, they're just not corners where you can really go too wide racing.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a miscommunication between them both. Maybe David could have just let off a little bit more and let Franz through, but yeah, you're not in the car at that point in time, so it's easy to make a judgment call here.
So, I mean, you take a look at that little incident right there. You saw Franz Stum making a heck of a charge going after Eric Davis. He was gaining his ground, has an incident, and next thing you know, David Stockrider is now on the podium, followed by Joe Branch. Once again, steady seems to be the order of the day.
Well, let's not forget that Stum did have to make himself one more pit. Yes, he did. He would have had to make himself one more pit stop. He came down pit road in lap 19, and he definitely would have not been able to make it the distance. So he would have at least dropped behind Stockrider. But Joe Branch, after starting in the 9th position, has moved his way up into 4th. And we were talking earlier on how, you know, Joe normally tries to fight for podiums here. He's in a podium hunt, you know, in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, and again, that's what we talked about. You know, Joe getting to know his race car, knowing the limits of his car, running his race, trying not to get intimidated. If you know, somebody wants to get by really badly, you know, he'll let them go. But at the end of the day, it's in what order you cross the finish line, you know, under the checkered flag. And again, we're seeing a lot of drivers pushing their cars beyond either the car's limit or the driver's limit, and you know, they're not able to finish the race, so these other drivers just, you know, put on the big Cheshire Cat grin and cross the finish line.
13 laps to go here then at the Indy Grand Prix of Suzuka. This beautiful 3.61 mile, 17 corner epic of a racetrack. Probably one of the, in most people's top 5 road racing circuits in the world, and it's producing great racing here today for the drivers who have made the trip across the Pacific Ocean. And I have to say right now, Daniel Lee, 13 very sideways there in the spoon curve, 13 seconds ahead of Eric Davis. I've got a feeling he is going to have to come down pit road. And I say that for the simple fact that he's pushing that car so hard right now, and I think he knows that he's going to be a couple of laps short.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of people really pushing these cars and watching them get loose in a lot of these corners. And you know, you understand you have to drive. You can't not drive the car, because the minute you start letting off the throttle and getting off the pace, and that's when the car really starts to underperform. So, you know, he's going to have to keep running those 144s, probably just to keep the car functioning properly. But do you guys think he's got everything he needs to get to the end?
He might need a little bit of luck, but Stockrider is now 28 seconds behind in that number 11 machine, so it looks as though, I think that, you know, Davis comes down pit road as well.
Yeah.
Job done.
Yeah, I think he just needs to come out ahead of Stockrider, unless he needs to come into the pits as well. So let's see how this. Oh, he's down on the straight. So yeah, Eric's now in 3rd.
No, Eric's down into pit, so he is making his 3rd and final stop of, second stop of the day even for Eric Davis. I take that back. So Davis is topping up on Sunoco race gas. This is the longest stop for him. He's sat on the road for a long time, and I've got a feeling that he sped on the way into pit road. And having a look back.
Oh, yeah, serving a penalty.
Yeah, and he really missed those cones by a mile and a half there. So that Slowpoke Racing number 65 machine not only had to come down pit road, he also had to serve himself. I believe it was an 18-second stop and go penalty there awarded to him by race control, and disappointment there for Eric Davis. David Stockwright is 31 seconds behind the race lead. And to give you an indication of Stockwright's times, he was doing 1 minute 46 to 1 minute 45 at the start of this race. He's now doing 1 minute 47, but I don't think this is enough for Stockwright. He'll get a big boost now by the fact that Davis had to, pretty much give away another 20 seconds. But I think it was the wrong strategy from Stockwright. He made the right call initially, but I think he had to try and push a little bit more to keep within that margin for Daniel Lee.
Well, yeah, you've got Eric Davis who, although he was not able to come out of the pits because of the penalty ahead of David Stockwright. He, however, is not that far behind him. Fresh tires, got fuel, so we're going to see whether he's going to mount a charge on David Stockwright, because I'm actually impressed by Eric Davis today. You didn't think he was the driver that could mount the charge and put the pressure on, but he's driven a great race today, keeping himself in contention for the podium.
And I think that Stockwright, though, I had to take that back. I think that Doyle is watching a completely different race. David Stockwright is coming through turn number 3 into the S's now. Eric Davis isn't even down at the Casino Triangle.
Apparently my scoring here that I'm looking at is not quite correct, so yeah, I apologize.
Eric Davis now does come past the start-finish line to put his 37th lap in the books here at Suzuka Circuit, and he is 23 seconds. That's almost, no, in fact, he's 33 seconds behind. And
he's now.
Yeah, and Stockwright can come into pit road if he needs to, make a pit stop and come out ahead of Davis. So now Stockwright has that buffer. Daniel Lee very tight on the curbs there into the 130. That car really is on the ragged edge. Joe Branch has moved up into the 3rd position. Joe Branch in that number 27 machine. He pitted on that first portion, let's not forget.
Daniel Lee into the pit.
Daniel Lee comes wall early, and we need a replay of that wall touch. It was a slight little touch, but that will tweak that car in the S's. I think that was just a white wall there. That wouldn't cause any suspension damage at all. But Daniel Lee, I think he decided, let's get some fresh tyres for the end of the race, because he'd been charging so hard. David Stockwright will possibly assume the race lead. We're keeping an eye out for Stockwright in the number 11 machine, coming out the final corner, down past the start-finish line. Daniel Lee already comes out. He doesn't have to get into the pit limiter at all. Straight back onto the racetrack. David Stockwright is about 3 seconds behind, so this has worked out beautifully for Daniel Lee.
Yeah, that was a great pit stop.
Daniel Lee's going to be on new tyres now. Stockwright's not going to get ahead of him at all. Do we know if Stockwright needs to pit again, or is he done as well?
Stockwright is lit on the bubble. We've seen he's probably saved himself about a lap of fuel in this stint, so he could make it to the end if with a little bit of luck. And one of the key things, David, let's not forget, the last portion of this racetrack is all downhill. So if Stockwright does run out of fuel, it's not like Road America where you're toast. You can coast it pretty much all the way to the line.
Yeah, okay, take a look. Go ahead.
Does Joe need to pit again as well?
No, Joe pitted with the leaders the last time. He's on the same strategy as Daniel Lee. And I was just going to mention that Joe Branch is in a very good position. He's made himself up to the podium, and there is nobody really pressing behind him on this. So, do you think he can hold on for that less than 10 laps?
Well, it depends how many. Need to have a look, see what the lap times are between Eric and Joe.
I think Joe's having saved just a little bit of fuel. You've seen him doing that for about the last, 10, 15 laps now. So he's going to have to just be careful. Davis is within striking distance. He's only 8 seconds behind. Sorry. But Joe Branch in that number 27 machine into the podium position for now. And this is going to confuse the hell out of Eric Davis, because he thought that he was set for 2nd place.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I think the pit stop speeding in the pits in there. He is currently on the last lap. He was about almost a second quicker than Joe. So this is going to come down to the wire.
With pretty much nine laps to go at the line and about 8 seconds to gain, he's going to be right on the rear of him at the end of the race. And let's not forget that Joe Branch might still have to save himself a little bit of fuel. Don't count your chickens yet, Joe Branch in the number 27 car, because you just did a 1 minute 48.824. Eric Davis in the number 65 machine did a 1 minute 46.112. So Branch, you need to pick up the pace now and just, go to the end. And if you run out of fuel, you need to go for broke now, because you might lose that podium spot.
I think he's going to. Eric looks like he's on a real charge for this. So, yeah, I reckon Eric's going to take him.
Yeah, Eric is really driving the wheels off that car. He's great lap times, great control. He's not spinning, so yeah, he's really charging right here.
And we have confirmation Joe Branch is indeed trying to save some fuel. He's heard from his pit crew that he is close. He needed half a lap of fuel about 7 laps ago to get to the end of this race. And David, you can save a lot of fuel on this racetrack with the long straightaways, and you can get out the front a little bit early in some of these tight braking zones. But when you got someone that close, it's that point, you might as well just push on. And if you lose a position and you run out on the backstretch, you lose a position. But the way he's doing it now, he's not giving himself any opportunities.
Yeah, he's a mile ahead of Paul Jenkins, so even if he does run out of fuel, he'll still be able to coast over the line in 4th place. But I don't think Joe wants to do that. I think he wants to try and save some of that fuel.
And just look down the screen, you see how the track just falls downhill for the last quarter of the racetrack. And I'll tell you what as well, if you were to run out of fuel, you can apparently take the escape road and get back out onto the racetrack without losing, without being forced to get a black flag, because overall, as far as time limits are concerned, you are indeed slower. So something to bear in mind. Joe Brighto just going out, putting a lap on Dave Jinks in that number 76 machine. It's close. It's gap is down to 4.2 seconds, and a 1 minute 47.5 there for Joe Branch last time by, and for Eric Davis, a 1 minute 45.9.
Yeah, Eric Davis has got much faster right there.
Yeah, he's going to get in. I mean, but as the old saying goes, catching is one thing, passing is the other.
Joe Branch running that herb a little bit there on the exit down your number 1. We've seen you do that, David, earlier in this race. Didn't go too well for you. And then down into the hairpin once again. Joe Branch here, he has got himself a little bit of time behind him, but got loose there in the hairpin. Now he's going to have to be careful that he doesn't come under attack on this second portion of the lap. Looking back for the rest of the field very quickly, Paul Jenkins is at in the 5th position. Last car on the lead lap with John Ailes in the 6th spot. Julian Fan riding well in the 7th position with Dexter Castro in 8th. Frank Joseph Stubb in 9th, and Dave Jinks is 5 laps down, running out your top 10.
Eric can see him now on the straight. He's going to see him getting closer and closer and closer. This is going to give him something to aim for now. He's got a target.
Yeah, as they're closing up there, yeah, he can really see the back wing, so it's going to be half a lap or less before they're right on each other. But let me ask you this: if you're David Sockrider, you're 9 seconds behind the lead, you're miles ahead of P3. Do you just run your laps and not worry about anything at this point in time and say, "Hey, I'm on the podium, I'm in 2nd place, I'm just going to finish this race"?
It's hard. You still want to push, because if you lose your concentration if you just kind of like shut off and cruise at home. That's when mistake happens. So he's going to be racing as hard as he has been throughout the race. I don't see him shutting down really.
And don't forget, that is exactly what happened to Ayrton Senna in the 1988 Monaco Grand Prix. As soon as he snapped out of his concentration trance, it was that race, he was right into the tyre barriers at Portier. So I completely agree with David there. I think as soon as you stop pushing, shall we say, stop concentrating, the tyre temperatures go down a little bit more, and when the car was, just neutral before, it might become slightly loose with the more grip that you have. it's not a risk that you'd want to take this late into a long race. You know, something could happen. All of a sudden, Daniel Lee could have a moment, and you know, it was losing 2 seconds lap, and you'd want to have to capitalise on that. So, I'd never ever just go into cruise control unless, you know, you were just being told to bring the car home and you had, you know, some damage that was making it really hard to drive.
I think as long as you just hit all your markers, hit all your brake points, hit all the gear change points, get on the throttle nice and easy, you know, and not unsettle the car, you're going to be fine. Oh, Eric's really closed in on Joe here. I think another lap and we're going to see Eric try and make a move.
Past the start-finish line once again. Joe Branch's last lap was a 1 minute 47.3. Eric Davis a 1 minute 45.8. The gap is down now to 9.5 tenths of a second coming down into turn number 2.
Don't mean to be biased or anything, but you know, can't Eric get on that podium, mate?
Through the S's one more time, and that 65 machine, we talked about him at the start of the race, how, you know, he was pretty much, you know, going to get himself onto the podium if he did everything right. He didn't do everything right. He's been put onto the back foot with that moment in pit road, but now he's got a chance. He can smell that podium. Very and guys, it's going to be interesting here because, as we talked about earlier, passing is very difficult here. You need to set up your, you know, your opportunity, but almost a third of a lap in advance to really get that momentum to get the job done.
Yeah, and especially when you start getting within a second of the car ahead, the cars start to push a little bit more because the aeros change. So if Eric's running a low downforce setup here, it's going to be hard for him to get up onto the back of Joe.
But at the same time, let's forget, as David's getting a little bit sideways once again, coming out at the spoon curve, let's not forget that Joe Branch in that number 27 machine has been saving. Now, if you were to pit crew to Joe Branch, would you, I mean, personally, I would have said it's 3 laps to go, but would you just say, look, just push now? Keep him behind you and just try and push. And if you run out of fuel, you run out of fuel.
Yeah, I think maybe they've turned up the, they've told him to go for it because Eric's not rushed up onto the back of him now. Joe's suddenly picked up the pace a little bit. Let's have a look at the lap times.
Yeah, just 3 times
yeah.
slower.
Yeah, so he's definitely picked up his pace a little bit from before, and Eric's in that dirty air zone now.
And guys, this is the thing that, you know, you really should tell your pit crews to do. Not just look at your own car, but look at the cars around you as well. Because Joe Branch is now one of only 4 cars on the lead lap. Paul Jenkins had to do a splash and go, so he is now 1 lap down. What this means is, Joe could run out of fuel on the final lap and still finish in the 4th position. So, I think it was a bad call there for that number 27 machine, and I think Davis is in a position to capitalise, but we've seen just how weird that car gets behind dirty traffic. Not dirty traffic, dirty air.
I like dirty traffic. I think we should use
Dirty
that.
traffic, you had some dirty traffic.
It's not dirty traffic. Yeah, as you can see, he's not really come up onto the back of Joe here. He's just kind of like stuck in this 1 second area, and the car just seems really unsettled. So he needs to maybe change a few of his lines on some of the corners so he can get better drive.
4 laps to go for Daniel Lee in the number 64 machine, driving the Mencap car there. And I tell you what, David, it's been a great weekend for Britain in the Olympics this weekend, with exceeding expectations in London 2012, and Daniel Lee is trying to add his own little bit of success to that here today, and he has been the dominant car from the second the green flag waved.
Yeah, Daniel, a great driver. He's I've raced with him before on quite a few things, and he's always been ridiculously quick. So it was not taking away anything from his win here, but it was definitely no one was going to match his pace at all.
Coming down into, once again, 3.5 laps left to go now for Daniel Lee in the number 64 machine. Keep you updated on that battle between Joe and Eric Davis. Eric Davis is still in that dirty air. He gained himself about a tenth of a second that last time by as they come down into Denga 1 again. Looking to the right for Denga 2. It looks like Davis just settled down a bit now. I think he was trying to push to close up to Joe Bryant. Now it's behind him. He's realised he's got to save a little bit on those tyres to try and make the passes ahead of him. That is Dexter Castro once again going off at the head. Too wide. I think Joe there just survives there. Davis did get the drive on the inside line, so he's going to have the work to do again down into Spoon Curve. Joe's going to have to cover the line into the corner as Eric Davis is looking low, down to the inside, too wide. Joe Branch on the outside line got better drive into the second part of the Spoon Curve. They almost got
Eric Davis a little loose.
Joe Branch is going to be too wide all the way down the back straight away, and Joe Branch does clear Eric Davis, so he'll be able to pull back ahead now, coming down into the 130R. And guys, this is going to pick up the last couple of laps of this race now, because Davis will have the opportunity to try and look down to the inside, into the Casino Triangle, but Joe Branch, he dodged a bullet and a half there.
Yeah, I think he lost his concentration there when that other car went off in front of him.
Yeah, it's so easy. Kind of probably followed him into the corner and didn't realise he was doing it. But Eric just seems to be setting him up. He definitely had the better drive, but thought better of it, and you know, see if he can pressurise Joe into making a mistake or running more wide. But he needs to get a move on because he's only got a few more laps to go.
Yeah, they only have
looks like the rear end of Eric's car is really kicking out on him.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, they've only got 3 laps in back. They've got about 2 2/3 laps left to go to settle this one now. They are 43 seconds behind the race lead, which is Daniel Lee. In that number 64 machine, David Sockrider is 20 seconds back in that number 11 car. He's been saving fuel dramatically these past couple of laps. He's been doing laps of 1 minute 47 to 48, a couple of 49 chucks into there as well. Sockrider is worried in that number 11 machine that he cannot make the distance. And guys, with these two only 23 seconds behind, if he loses it about the point he is on track now, kind of on that back straightaway, 20 seconds on this track with these long straightaways to end the lap, that can be closed down very quickly.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think you'd pull that back. These two would.
And you never know, that Davis and Branch could actually both be on the podium together if things don't go Sockrider's way. Out of the Spoon Curve once again for Davis and Branch, and Davis has dropped back into that kind of 7/10 of a second dirty air one more time, so wasn't able to capitalise on that manoeuvre there with the lap traffic of Dexter Castro, who went off in the hairpin for the second time today. But Davis there was very quick through the 130R, had himself a great bit of momentum coming out into the Casino Triangle, but not quite close enough. And these guys have got now 5.2 miles to settle this battle for the last podium position.
And Joe Branch is really surprising, and coming off that fuel-saving strategy, he's really stepped it up as far as keeping on the track here. So apparently he's had all race to settle his car, so he's running a really good race right now. I'm really impressed by the way Joe Branch is keeping Eric Davis at bay.
Oh, Davis, a little bit of place there.
Yeah, getting a little bit loose for the S's, but he hasn't lost too much time. He just needs to stick behind him, not get too just let drive out of there. But he doesn't want to get too squirrely. He just needs to sit behind him and see if he can pressurise him and make his move into the braking zone after the fast right-hand kink.
And he made a mistake there, did Davis. He had to get out the throttle up into the downwards because, you know, he got that momentum too early. And he's looking down to the inside again.
The inside,
And Branch goes wide. Branch goes wide into the exit, and what this means is that Branch has got the position back once again, but coming into the last lap, Davis will know that is a weak point for Branch, and if he can just get his braking zone sorted out, he will have one more opportunity down there. If they're coming through the Spoon Curve once more, they've got lap and a half left to go. Daniel Lee starts the last lap, and Davis is hounding now for that final position on the podium.
Yeah, he ran a little bit wide there. He should have kept it a little bit tighter, but this is it. This is his last chance. So fingers crossed.
So Daniel Lee currently working through the S's for the final time. Up now, down towards staying at number 1. He's got himself Dexter Castro ahead of him. Dexter Castro has been an interesting driver to watch here today. I mean, he's had some damage to that car, but he's pressed on. Daniel Lee there just sweeping past him to the right-hand side. David Sockrider in second. Joe Branch down past start finish line. One more lap to go for him. Let's see if David trying to make the move into the second corner. Not going to do so. And let's not forget, Joe Branch has been a little bit slow through the S's. So Eric Davis is now going to be looking for the chance to pounce.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be, just needs to follow my leader through here, just sit behind him, keep it nice and tight in all the corners, and you know, his best chance is setting him up for the outbreaking him on the chicane. So,
Daniel Lee is on the straightaway. Joe Branch is coming into Danger number 2. Daniel Lee's going to win this race just as Joe Branch is going to come into the hairpin. Daniel Lee is down into the casino triangle for the final time. Joe Branch coming into the hairpin. This is about for the 3rd position. Eric Davis not close enough. Daniel Lee comes out of the final corner for the final time and continues a great weekend for Great Britain in the Olympics. Daniel Lee wins in the number 64 machine by 23 seconds over Sock Rider. Joe Branch coming down into the spoon curve. This is the battle for the 3rd position. Eric Davis isn't quite close enough. David Sock Rider is coming through the 130R for the final time.
no, he's not going to do it.
And Davis has got one more opportunity as Sock Rider is coming down out of the casino triangle. He is going to come home in the 2nd position in that number 11 Jesus and Friends machine there, trying to become Indiana. Joe Branch, a 2nd Indiana driver. This is going to be closer to the final corner. Davis is going for it. And they touch. They do touch. Davis.
By Eric Davis. Oh my God.
Yes!
Oh, beautiful driving. Surprise, surprise, Joe Branch. Oh my goodness. A little too wide, that was it. Oh my gosh.
And guys, what happened there to Joe Branch is it looks like he might have run out of fuel. He did run out of this is the issue, guys. No matter what would have happened, Davis would have got 3rd position anyway. And I think, actually, I'm having a look, he ran out of fuel coming out of the 130R. You see, just as he broke into the casino triangle, that is where his engine started for the first time. He made it hard for Davis, had to cut across the curb, got himself a little slowdown penalty, but at the end of the race, Joe Branch needed another about 200 meters of fuel to make it to the line. Eric Davis takes 3rd position there, but, you know, we said in the end that Joe Branch had to throw caution to the wind, but it was so close. But at the same time, you know, had he have, you know, pushed a little bit earlier, yes, he would have saved a little bit less fuel, but he probably would have run out around the same place and would have been able to make it into the casino triangle, you know, with if he had run out of fuel coming out the 130R. That wouldn't have been the issue. Perhaps he might have got 3rd place there.
Yeah, that had to be a heartbreaker for Joe, hearing that engine sputter just as he's coming around that last set of curves there. That because he did a great job of racing Eric Davis there all the way down to the wire. That's too bad that it came down to fuel and not actually the driver.
So to run through your final race results here for the Indy Grand Prix of Suzuka, Daniel Lee is your race winner after an hour and a half of racing. David Shockrider comes home in the 2nd position, 32 seconds behind the race leader. Eric Davis on the final corner of the final lap takes home 3rd position there in the number 65 machine. Joe Branch unfortunately stops it from being 2 Club Indiana drivers on the podium. He comes home in the 4th position. Paul Jenkins comes home across the line in the 5th spot, with Julian Pham up into 6th, John Ailes in 7th, Franz Joseph Stum in 8th, Dexter Cashel in 9th, Dave Dinks in 10th, then your retirees, David Ward, Isfan Balao, Jonathan Goke, Matthew Lamberton, and Carsten Borchers. And guys, that was a crazy couple of laps there. And David, I want your take of that. Should Joe have pushed earlier?
Yeah, but even then, I don't think he had the fuel. He was definitely running to a fuel number, and he was being pushed hard. Just unfortunate, mate. You know, that's the strategies, isn't it? When you're trying to race against the fuel. So yeah, it was great, but you know, well done to Eric, mate. So happy for him. He's on the podium.
That was a crazy end to the race here. Once again, in the ISOWC. And David, next week you're going to go to Road America. It's going to be crazy.
I hope it's as good as this race, and yeah, let's see if I can See if we can finish the thing.
Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get ourselves a chat with Daniel Lee today. He's had some issues with his in-race communication, so that is going to make things difficult for him. However, we are going to have a couple of chats with some drivers. In fact, they're all running away from us and knowing what's going on. We'll get Mr. Jinx into the room very quickly. Jinx, you had yourself a very interesting day today. I just want your opinion on what happened with that moment with Franz Josef Stom. It looks like you tried to give him the outside line there going into Denga number 1.
Well, that's exactly right. I knew he was faster. He was on me going through the S's. I think he expected me to let him go there, and I was trying to wait till we got to that turn, and he turned in on me. He bad timing.
And up until that point, you'd had yourself a steady race, shall we say. Mr. Doyle Johnson called you slow, and I told him to shut
I
off.
certainly did not.
He did. You can see it on the replay. But I mean, how was your race apart from that? I mean, let's not forget the last time we were here, you actually won the race, taking your first ISOWC victory.
Well, yes, Doyle, I am a little slow compared to the fast guys in the field, but it was a steady race, and I thought I had a good chance to finish in the top 5 anyway. I was running 7th at the time. I like the track. It's a fun track.
Thank you, Joe, for throwing me under the bus there. That was really great. But Joe, yeah, during the comments in the race, you'll see that it was an endearing thing about your steady racing style.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before.
Yeah, just defend yourself all you want. I'm not going to defend you anymore, Doyle. But Dave, you came home 10th overall. It's going to make things a little bit more interesting in especially the Road Championship points battle. We're going to Road America next week, and as a championship leader, it's a case of doing what you've done so far and just being consistent. So, do you think that you'd have the opportunity to hold that lead going into the Indy 500 and towards the end of the season?
Well, I hope so. That has been my goal, is to participate and try to build some points. I'm surprised to still be in the lead, frankly, and this half of the season is loaded with road courses on which I'm not that fast, not that good. So I hope to hold on with steady finishes.
Well done on completing the race, and I had some severe damage to that race car at the end. And we will see you at Road America next week. And we'll move up to Mr. Joseph Branch in that number 27 machine. At one point, I will admit, I was shouting at you to push on commentary, but it looks like you ran out coming into the casino triangle just as you put the brakes on. I mean, that was very, very close to you, and the way that full course caution played out, did it almost give you the opportunity to take the risk? And did you really think it was going to pan out?
Well, I had no idea it was going to pan out like that. I got every last bit of mileage I could on my to go to my second stop, and then my third stop. Well, I didn't have a third stop, but my last tank of fuel, I was saving as long as I could, and I knew I had an 8-second margin, and I used all that to save, and it still wasn't enough. And then when he got to me, I started to push, and then I still knew I didn't have enough, and I kept saving every time I'd see my margin go up to like a second, and then I would take a turn easy and coast into it. And I did everything I could, so I'm not disappointed.
And we almost had, for the first time ever, 2 Indiana boys on the podium, and to think that we've got 47 races now with only never having 2 at the same time. It was going to be close, and you had some good battles in the race with a number of drivers. And do you think that, you know, had things have panned out differently, you would have been able to still get a top 5?
Yeah, I think would I finish 4th? I think it would have probably been more 5th out of the fuel. Well, then Joseph had a problem, so I think I pretty much finished where I was going to, fourth, but I did my best to try to finish third with the fuel strategy.
And Road America next week, I know it's one of your favourite tracks. In fact, I know that it's a track that you really wish to see the actual IndyCars back on again. It's a very different type of racetrack next week, more stop-start. But how do you think you're going to end up doing that?
I don't think I'm as good at Road America, but I've got more laps in at Road America, so maybe I'll be a little faster there. So if I can make the race, I'm gonna try.
And obviously, don't forget that if you run out of fuel at Road America, you won't have the advantage of coasting downhill there. In fact, it'll be the complete opposite.
Exactly. I ran out of fuel at the top of that hill and rolled back down backwards in an official race before, so I don't want to do that again.
Well done on your fourth place finish. Going to quickly pop over to Mr. Paul Jenkins and the number 19 machine. Yourself a fun race, shall we say. And you came home fifth, so well done.
Yeah, imagine that. Well, the strategy was to not run into anything, and I think I accomplished that. But yeah, there's certainly some much faster cars running into some calamity, and I was the benefactor. But I just wanted to survive like I did last week, and I'm just trying to learn along with these road courses and get better as I go along. But hey, I'll take a fifth any day.
And you didn't come down pit road on that full-course caution. Did it look to you as if you that you wasn't going to be able to make it on that one tank, or did you just not want to play the fuel-saving game?
I thought about it as I was going past the exit, but or the entrance rather, and I didn't really want to get involved in that. My burn was really going to be close, and I think it would have just been pushing the issue, so I didn't want to risk it.
10-4, Road America next week. It's a fast track, and it looks as though you were very good in the fast sections of this race course. So, how do you think you're going to be able to do next week at the famous Elkhart Lake Circuit?
Well, I think I'll be all right. I've done some work on it earlier this year, and I really think that I think it's going to be a good course for me. Same strategy, just kind of keep my nose clean. A lot of great drivers here, and so I'm not really too worried about silly things happening, but I'm looking forward to it.
And well done for your fifth position in the race. We're going to leave a best till last here, and we say it for good reason. Julien Pham, you came home in the sixth position today, and you pitted on that first caution. You just about managed to make it work for you. And was it the fact that you were put a lap down? Do you think that helped you with your fuel mileage at the end?
I think I could have made till the end even without being a lap down, but sure, it could have been a little short, but perhaps I could have made it anyway.
And with problems to your nearest championship rival, Dave Jinks, you gain a little bit of ground in the overall championship standings. Coming into Road America next week, it seems to be that consistency seems to be the key for you, getting yourself constant top 10 finishes. And do you think you can do the same again at Road America next week?
I will try. That's true. I'm not the faster driver around, but I try to finish the race, and I think it's the most important is to finish the race first.
10-4, we see you next week at America. Let's not forget, Julien Pham and Dave Jinks, between them, have only missed 4 races of the entirety of the ISOWC 2011 and 12 seasons. Mr. Dexter Castro, are you available yet?
Yes, I am.
There we are. We tried to talk to you earlier, but I think you were a little bit busy. Came home 9th in the race today in that number 13 machine. It looked to say that car was very hard to drive. We saw you go off into the hairpin on lap number 1. I'm guessing that just bent up the bodywork a little bit and made it tough to drive throughout the rest of the race.
Well, yeah, I think that was a combination of first race nerves and cold tires, and I just coming around the right-hander into the hairpin, I just got on the brakes a little the wrong way, and it spun me to the right. So then I was losing about three 3.5 seconds per lap after that, especially on the long straights.
And for the latter part of that race as well, it looked as though that the issues to your car really compounded when, you know, you'd done more than about 10 laps on your tyres. And just that car, it was a handful to control, but on the faster sections of the racetrack, just how difficult was it, you know, to keep it pointing in the right direction?
It actually was not difficult at all to drive. It just lacked all the top end speed. It didn't like turning quite as much as it used to, but it was by no means tough to get around the course.
And next week, Road America, how do you think you're going to end up doing there?
Well, unfortunately, I actually don't have Road America, but I should be back for Atlanta.
10-4, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. And he's managed to make it and get himself a completely new headset and sort out all the connections he had with his radio. But Mr. Race winner Daniel Lee, on a weekend that Britain has surpassed themselves in the Olympics, you go and add another win to it. So shall I give you a gold medal now or later?
You can leave a medal. I just deserve to be on the team. That's enough for me.
And that 64 machine, the 64 Mencap car, was just dominant today. And I think, I mean, I don't know from your opinion, but I think the starts on both occasions helped you as it was all happening behind you. And how important was it to get a good, quick, early lead for the free-stop strategy that you did?
Pretty important. I was always planning to do a free stopper from the start. This is the first race I've been in with, and it's been a safety car out. I think during my entire time in iRacing, there's never been a safety car out on track, so I didn't know how to approach it, but I just knew I had to get 100% into the car to get a lead, because I didn't know who else was still going to be with us further down the road. You know, that's kind of why I did the free stopper. I wanted that extra pressure, because you can't really tell what's going to happen down the road, and you need to be perfect every lap. And I think today I actually managed to do that with one or two little wiggles, but apart from that, it all worked out in the end. I'll probably race better with pressure, so I'm probably going to be doing that more often.
And you, with that caution, the full course caution, did you consider going down pit road, or did you think that it just wasn't going to work?
Had to stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. No, whenever I change my mind halfway through, it never quite works out. You know, making decisions on the fly, something's going to go wrong. So I'm sticking to the plan every time. I work it out before the race, and then after that, it ain't changing, no matter what.
And the second stint of the race, you had a little bit of trouble getting past David Stockwright. He gave you a nice battle. Was that car specifically tuned to run out front? And just how hard was it to find your way past him on that second stint before he lost it, coming up the hairpin?
Well, he got a decent drive off that hairpin. That was one place that I might have been able to draw alongside, and he always got a decent exit off that spoon curve, which was another place I could have got by, you know, if I'd have got a good drive. But no, the car wasn't really made for overtaking, and it doesn't really follow well either. I found that myself. Usually I just take a baseline set and tweak one or two things, but I really changed a lot this time, and it was good on its own in its own clean air, but behind him I was banging the limiter on 6 every time, so I couldn't see how I was going to get past him, but he sorted that out for me. Cheers, Dave.
Next week we head over to Elkhart Lake for the Indy Grand Prix at Road America. I've got a feeling it's going to be a track that you do well at again, but what's your thoughts going into that race?
I'll definitely be there for one. Road America, problem with tracks like that are stop-start with lots of straights in between, you know, straight line, point and squirt, is that I tend to get a little bit distracted between corners, shall I say. So I'm probably more likely to have an incident there than I am anywhere else. The harder the track, the more likely I am to finish. Watkins Glen is going to be my worst one. I don't know whether it's in the schedule for the second half, but if it's on it, I'd expect me to crash out on that one. But I wanted to change.
But Road America has twisty straightaways, so at least on the backstretch you'll have a little bit of an opportunity to pay attention.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to make excitement and pressure for myself, I think. So I'm gonna be doing a crazy pit stop strategy there as well to make me give it everything I've got.
Well, well done. Congratulations on your race victory, and we'll see you at Road America. Let's sum up, guys. David, we'll start with you. You had a tough race, but overall, it's been some fun racing today in the Japanese heartland of Suzuka.
Yeah, it's been a bit gutted about that, but you know, one of them things. We'll see how we do in the next race. Should do a lot better. So yeah, I just need to stop making stupid mistakes, and yeah, we might see me in the top 5 maybe.
Doyle?
Yeah, I thought today was a great race. Great race by Daniel Lee. He was pretty well dominant the whole time. David Sockrat had a good job. The epic battle there at the end, and resulting in Joe Branch running out of fuel. So yeah, I thought this was a great race, and looking forward to another good race in the series next weekend.
And don't forget, if you have missed anything on this race, you can catch up by going to GlacierTV.com. Also next week, don't forget also that you can view live timing and scoring of the Indy Grand Prix of Elkhart Lake by going to isowc.org/live. We'll be back next week for the Indy Grand Prix of Elkhart Lake, same time, same place. And don't forget, throughout the week, we have got lots of action on Glacier TV, including the Talk Freak Racing Touring Car Championship, the Trellet.net late model series, the Big Dogs Racing late model series, as well as the final round of the Skip Barber Racing School Premier Series that will be coming to you this Wednesday from Alton Park. And meanwhile, from myself, from Yana Matakayan, from Doyle Johnson and David Ward, it is time to say good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.